Hey guys, so for those of you who I haven't had the chance of meeting, my name is Patrick Mercer. I am part of the Emerging Leaders Executive Committee, and I am an AVP and Wellness Director at Frost Insurance, which is the insurance division of Frost Bank. So hopefully you've heard of it. Thanks for everybody just for joining. I'm super excited to be a part of this team, and just really excited to be able to have these moments and these opportunities to connect and with like-minded individuals. So much of what fills me up is finding my flock, and I feel like this is my flock. And so just happy to be along this committee with you guys, and just excited to be your MC for the day. So that's what we were kind of joking about. I have never been an MC. I've never led anything like this before. So Chauncey and a few others were saying that I should add that to my LinkedIn profile page. And so go ahead and feel free to endorse me as an MC on the heels of this, depending on how it goes. So just don't throw any tomatoes at me if you would. I see we've got David. He probably needs no introduction. So CEO of United Way, Greater Austin, and he is going to step in and say a few words. So David, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Patrick. So far, so good. I'd say you've earned your MC creds, yes. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us for this. I know we have a great draw. And I want to say a special welcome. All the work we do is local, and all the money you all give stays local. And we're also part of a worldwide network where we share ideas and best practices. And so we're so grateful that all of you are such an important part of our work. And you are such a force for good that some other United Ways have joined us today to learn from you. So I know you'll join me in giving them a warm, I think today we could say hot Austin welcome. We've got some friends from other United Ways, and so they're going to learn. And so the good you're doing will go even beyond Austin City. So you all have heard us talk about how the COVID crisis put a spotlight on the disparities and inequities that we were really already working on. And so when people ask me, how have we pivoted since COVID? I definitely mention the huge success of Altogether ATX as a relief fund. And I talk not really about pivoting, but about doubling down on the work that we're already doing. And that long-term investing that we do can only be done because of your generosity. So thank you. I think the COVID crisis has also put a spotlight on the importance of leadership. And that's just another reason I love this series, Lunch with Leaders. We get to meet and get to know some of our community's strongest, most influential leaders. So excited about today. Just a few of the many, many highlights on Kristie Gonzales' resume are, one, she's president and general manager of KVUE and led the station to become the most watched news station in Austin. She was honored with the Latino Trendsetter Award in 2016. Treveza named her a 2018 Driver of Style, which is no surprise looking at her now, and she's always dressed to go. And she won the Austin Under 40 Award in 2018. All of that is so cool. More than any of that, I love her motto because it says so much about her. It's, as you climb, lift. So I would say Kristie Gonzales has lifted me up every day since the day I met her, and every one of us who are lucky enough to know her. And so just talking and thinking about the importance of true leadership, all of the way are so grateful she serves on the board, where she definitely is a leader among leaders. And speaking of the overwhelming success of Altogether ATX, it was Kristie who accomplished the impossible. She pulled together all of the media who are normally competing to come together to support our community right when the COVID crisis hit through the Altogether ATX fund. When we started that fund, we thought it might raise $2 or $3 million. And it's because of Kristie's unstoppable leadership and because she only dreams big that we have passed $6 million. Almost all of that money is already in the hands of those who were hit hardest and are being hit hardest by the COVID crisis. So all those accomplishments, all those awards, all that strong leadership, and she's a total blast. So I'm just really thrilled that you all get to know her better and have no doubt that you will be uplifted like she always does. So thanks all of you for being here. Kristie, thank you too. And Patrick, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. So Emily Gonzales is, I hope I get this right. I think she's an executive at UPS. Is that right, Emily? Yes? All right. She is also on the executive committee for emerging leaders, and she is going to take us into the meat and potatoes of why we're here, talk to Kristie. So Emily, go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David. Good to see you again. And thank you, Patrick, for that warm introduction. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us, tuning in to this awesome Zoom version of Lunch with Leaders on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. I want to personally welcome you all to the Lunch with Leaders hosted by our Emerging Leaders for United Way. Emerging Leaders, as you know, is a group of tomorrow's leaders supporting United Way for Greater Austin through philanthropy, advocacy, and volunteerism. United Way aims to bring people, ideas, and resources together, all with the general goal of fighting poverty in our local community. Emerging Leaders members in particular support this mission by investing in United Way's Family Pathways program, which serves hardworking families who are still struggling to make ends meet by deliberately supporting both parents and children and leading to better outcomes for both generations. As we all know, investing in our Austin community is important before, during, and after this COVID pandemic. And our work to fight poverty started long before COVID got to Central Texas. For actually 95 years, United Way for Greater Austin has been fighting the inequities that COVID-19 has simply exposed in a larger way. Emerging Leaders in particular are partnering in this fight against poverty, and our support together as members is more important now than ever to ensure that we continue supporting these families and our community. And also we have the opportunity to look up to community leaders. And that's what brings me into introducing our special guest, Kristie Gonzales, who we have the pleasure of hearing from shortly. And as we all know, she's a longtime philanthropic leader in our community. David gave a tremendous introduction, the president and general manager of KVUE, and she serves on our United Way board of directors. So let's all unmute for one moment and give a virtual round of applause.
Welcome.
Welcome, Kristie.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, everyone. So now, Kristie, you have been the president and general manager of KVUE, one of the top television stations in Central Texas, for over 4 years now. And before that, you worked in marketing and television stations around the country. So can you tell us how at such a young age you were able to take on such a large leadership role?
Yeah, I'll tell you that it was a long time coming. So I didn't start off when I graduated college thinking I was going to do this. I actually thought I wanted to be a missionary, which you'll kind of understand how that relates back when you hear a little bit of my story. But when I got to Philadelphia at age 26 as a promotion producer at a TV station there, I met a woman. And when I saw her in the position of general manager, I was like, something in me just snapped, and I was like, wait, if she can do it, I can do it. And it was kind of the first time I saw myself in leadership at that level. And so I made the goal then. And it's crazy that when you make big goals for yourself and you start to align your behavior and your training and your preparation, that goal came through in 10 years. And I thought, at the time when I was like, I want to be a GM, I told myself I'm going to do it by 40, which I thought was huge. And then to get this job at 35, and and to be one of the few minority women who runs a TV station in the country. One, those numbers need to change, but two, it was really humbling and just showed me the power that we are all capable of when we set our sights to something big. And you just every day take a little bit. So there's so many things that happen along the way to prepare me, but it was because I had aligned myself to that big goal all those years ago. And I would dream about it and journal about it all the time and just, like make moves to head in that direction.
That's fabulous, Kristie. And you mentioned seeing other women or other people in these leadership roles. Can you tell us a little bit more about the impact that mentorship has had on your career and even your personal life?
Yeah, well, I like to tell the story of Rebecca Campbell, who I just mentioned. And by the way, Emily, like two Gonzales is interviewing each other. Is the world gonna like pop? We both, two Gonzales with an S. This is crazy. When does this happen?
No relation, by the way. At least I don't think so.
Yep, first time for everything, which is awesome. I told people I'm from New Mexico and we own the phone book. If you've ever gone there, like Gonzales is bigger than Smith, David, just so you know. We own it. And I got to Philly and I would get phone calls from people being like, hi, is Miss Gonzales there? And I'm like, what? Where am I? Like, what happened here on the East Coast? So anyways, circling back to my time in Philadelphia, which was my first big move away from my hometown and where I met Rebecca Campbell. So she was the GM of that station in Philly. And I remember asking to have lunch with her, and my boss was freaked out. He's like, why are you doing that? He was like worried about, just me going, skipping a couple levels. And I said, oh, because I want to do what she's doing, and I want to find out how she got there. So he's like, okay, great. So at that lunch, she really adopted me. And she also told me that she was going to go to New York to run the #1 TV station in the country. So I was like, darn it, like, here's the woman that I just found out her story, how she did it. And she's like, but you know what? I'm going to take you under my wing and I'm going to mentor you. And so for the next 10 years, she really sponsored my career, and her career just went like this. So it was kind of one of those things where I lucked out, but at the same time kept this relationship going. And so Rebecca Campbell went on to run the station, the #1 station in the country, WABC. And then she got promoted to run all of the ABC-owned, the Disney-owned television stations. So she was our group president. And then she got promoted to run daytime at ABC and then Disney. And she was just running Disney parks like 2 seconds ago and already got another promotion to, I don't know, she's doing something giant. I think she's like 2 steps away from the CEO in the company of Disney. Like her title's so big, I don't even know. But the point is, in that relationship, when she said, I think you should consider this job, I was like, well, I don't really want to move to Fresno, California. Has anyone been to Fresno? I'm just not surprised you haven't been there. It's not necessarily a destination. But because she was saying and putting these thoughts, like, go for this, I followed her lead. And many times I tried for jobs and was passed up and didn't get them. But every time she kept coaching me and investing in me. And her big thing to me was, I'm investing in you and you need to invest in others. And so that's really like a life mission that I carry along. I try to stick to pillars, and helping other women and people of color rise to positions of leadership is an assignment that she gifted me with because of what she did for me.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that, Kristie. And I'd like to ask a question that I believe everybody's thinking right now. What is one piece of advice you would share with all of us and how we can find this sort of clarity to discern our next move, our best move, and developing in our own professions?
Sure. So I know a few of you off camera right now, but if you are like thinking about your next step or kind of transitioning into a bigger or different role, will you raise your hand? And I'm actually with you too, if that's something you're doing right now. Okay. And most of you are probably, yeah, Sammy, thumbs up. Most of you are also probably at the age where this is like a time of potential big career growth, right? Can I get nods if like, it's like, because even for me now in my late 30s, I'm still like, yeah, Morgan. I think about that a lot, because I have certain, I don't have a family like kids, and it's easier for me to move around and do stuff. So when it comes to having clarity on your next move, there's a lot of tactics. So it's hard for me to give one piece of advice, but I am just going to remind you, if I did, I would go back to what David said earlier, is as you climb, lift. So that's just been something that I've carried along with me because I've been very ambitious. Like that will always come with me. Now, it takes a lot of time stepping back and goal setting and dreaming for yourself. Like, and I tell people like, okay, what if you could be anything and do anything and you think that's where your happiness is, or you would be really fulfilled for that? Put that goal on paper. And then the day after, come back and do a bigger one in line with that. Like maybe your goal is to have a small business. Well, guess what? Tomorrow, make that goal a 10 million small business instead of a 5 million. So it's just different stuff like that, to where I found if you put that stuff on paper, you start aligning your life and all the things that you're doing to prepare for that. So I'm just going to walk you through something I haven't shared with anybody, like what I'm doing now in this process. And you can talk to me in 5 years and see if it happened. Okay. So like, we'll do a future check on this one. So my big goal now is to be a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar media company. Now that sounds a little crazy, right? Just coming off the tongue. But I have said it so many times, and I'm aligning what I'm doing and preparing for it now, that when it happens, it'll be like, yeah, this is not new to me. I'm working my way to it. So how do I do it? Well, I want to talk to other CEOs of billion-dollar companies and be close to them so I understand what that feels like and it feels familiar. I'm studying investor relations. I'm studying investing. I'm studying raising capital. I'm studying all of these things that, Emily, I got an art degree. They did not teach you in painting school. So you spend time, once you start to put that stuff down on paper, like, okay, what are my gaps, right? What do I need to prepare for so that this huge ass dream isn't going to seem that big when I get there, because I've been working on it for a while. Does that make sense?
It does. That makes a lot of sense. And I know we all can relate to that, of studying something different for part of your life and embarking on a completely new adventure. So yeah, that's very relatable. I appreciate that, Kristie. And I wanted to bring up more on the United Way side about philanthropy. You're a very strong community advocate, being part of United Way board of directors. And what impact has philanthropy in general had on your life and even your career?
So I'm so impressed by everyone on this call for caring and being a part of this group, because I don't have to sell you guys on it. You're already here. Philanthropy sounds like a big fancy word to me, so it's weird to have it associated with me, because I'm like, I just think of like sororities or secret societies where you like have a lot of money to like hand out in your pocket, and that's not where I've come from. Does anybody else kind of have that like floating around in their head, or is that just me? Like, I'm a philanthropist. No, there's no trust fund hiding like behind here anywhere. Okay. Like I would love that. I wish my parents had a house somewhere and, like a vacation, right? So that's just not my reality, which is kind of what I think of sometimes when I think of philanthropy. So let's just zoom out a little bit. If you live a life only for yourself, it's boring. It's also miserable. I don't know about you guys, but the people I meet who are unhappy are usually because they're so focused on what's wrong in their life and it's negative and this isn't going right. And like, number one, adversity is a gift. When you figure out your way through adversity, it is something that can make you stronger than anybody else when they haven't gone through the things. So that is something that kind of, whether it's a chip on my shoulder or a fountain of fuel, it's something I take with me and I let it give me purpose. And so I know that I had a lot of things to overcome to get to where I am. Like, there are some tough things that happened when I was 23 with my little brother passing away and going through an abusive marriage so young and getting divorced, that I needed a lot of help to get to where I am. And so a lot of people helped me out. And to me, that's my definition of philanthropy, is giving other people just a lift, a hand up, right? And we're all going to face hard things that threaten to take us down. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through those things. And so when I think about helping and giving to the community, it's so tied into my purpose and my reason for being on this earth that it's hard to me think about it as like a gifting dollars. It's more about like, that is the whole reason why we are here. And if you don't tap into that, your life probably sucks. And it's probably just miserable. Like, how terrible, if you only focused on yourself, like that's awful. So I really think giving and philanthropy is just one of the biggest keys to happiness. And I hope you guys feel that with being a part of this group. And Patrick, you said it so perfectly, finding my flock. To be in a room with other people who give a crap is like the best feeling ever. And to team up on doing good for the community, like that's the secret that people who are involved in this work, like, guess what? It feeds us. It ends up being selfish because it feels so good. Like doing all together ATX, that felt so good. It was amazing, you guys. Working on this incredible team, like I got so much joy from that. So that's why I do this. That's why I can't help but do this. It's I don't know why I would be here if it weren't for it, like just to know that I got through stuff and I'm just going to do it on my own. No way. Hell no. Like, no, it's not about me.
And going off of that, you mentioned earlier you had some background in missionary work. Do you mind just talking a little bit more about that? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. So did anyone grow up in the church? Raise your hand if you did. Oh gosh, a lot of people on the call. Okay. I did not. I grew up in a home that was like full of addicts and violence. So that was not like necessarily the greatest place, but I will tell you that I found my relief and my solace at church. So I started going at like 13 and I was like, oh, there's so many boys here. I love this place. Real talk. I was a crazy kid. And, but then I realized like, oh wait, again, going back to this purpose in life, like there's a larger reason to live. And it's, I realized young, like money and all the things that are, none of that stuff makes you happy, like deep down inside. So basics of life, right? Figuring it out as a kid. So that's kind of how I got into the church and mission trips, because it was literally a rebellion against my own family. Like my family made fun of me and like was like, what's wrong with you? Because I did that stuff. So there's a long story, because eventually like a lot of the addicts in my family and the things that were broken with us like got solved through tragedy, which is a whole nother story. But that's why I started doing mission work. And what happened was when that marriage failed, I realized, well, one, I just went right into my career, like, because I needed a distraction. And lo and behold, I really feel like I'm living out the exact mission that I was supposed to do. Because when you have one plan for your life and it doesn't work out and you find yourself on another path, this is exactly where I was meant to be. And I know that because when you're in a position to pick up the phone and call other media leaders and say, hey guys, we can all do something amazing for our community right now, and everybody says yes, that's why I'm here, so I can pick up the phone.
Wow. Well, thanks, Kristie. I know that all of us are thinking the same thing. We're really appreciative to have you sharing your story with us, even just for a few moments. You have lived a lot of adventure and have these different experiences that really shape who you are right now, and hopefully can lead by example for everyone here. I'd like to turn it over and ask for an open question and answer session with everybody else on the call. Please speak up and utilize this time to try to take advantage of Kristie's wisdom here. Who wants to start with the first question?
I'm reading the chat too.
I've got a question for Kristie. Hi, Kristie. Thanks for joining us and being so vulnerable. It's refreshing and awesome. So you mentioned that you had a really great mentor. Do you have any advice for other young people looking to have a mentor on helping them strategize and grow their careers?
I do, yeah. So I actually have some specific steps for that. So the first step is identifying what you want, where you want to go. And then I recommend it, like, instead of like, oh, there's a person who's doing well in the career, it's really being specific about David Smith is a CEO of a nonprofit that is a, what's our total spend, David? Like 7 million? What are we at? Around, give or take?
12.
12. Okay, way off. Sorry. But the point is, it's big, right? That's a big operation. And that is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to run a large operation that does this. So you identify David, who's in the position of something you want, and you come to that leader and you say, hey, like, you're doing exactly what I want to do, and I want to learn from you and how you got there. And so when you approach that leader, even if it's a cold call and they're not in your network, I recommend starting with, here's why I'm asking, here's my goals, and here's the time commitment I'm asking of you. Is it one phone call? After that one phone call, would it turn into, can I check in once a month? When you do, I like putting formality to it. So if you have a mentor, really asking them to be intentional about the time you spend, but then being intentional about what you want to get. So with my mentors, and maybe it's things you already think you know the answer to, but trust me, when you talk to your mentors about them, you'll be like, oh, I never thought of that. And the reason is because, you know, y'all have only been here for 20+-ish years. And when you get 40, 50, 60 years on you, it's just a lot of life experience that you can't make up for. So I love the intentionality. I recommend setting up Google alerts on your mentor, setting up Google alerts on their business, and doing your homework. That's another key of a really fruitful mentorship. Morgan, what's your baby's name?
Her name's Marlo.
Hi, Marlo. She's really cute. She's adorable.
It's nap time.
Oh, look, she beat her hand up. Oh, very cute.
Kristie, I had a question about, so you mentioned you went to art school, which I definitely related to. I went to school and got a theater performance degree. So I always say I got a degree in pretending. And then I went to, ended up going to law school, and I always found like, I found it very relatable when you're talking about having to teach yourself some things that you didn't learn in undergrad. And I guess more broadly, I'm always thinking of like, how do you know what you don't know but you need to know? So what are your strategies on you know, figuring out the resources to learn more about, you're talking about finance and investor relations and things like that. So I guess that was kind of a rambling question, but I hope the intention came across.
Oh, let me tell you, there are so many things you don't know, right? Like, I was in this mini school this year on how to buy TV stations. And when it comes to banking and lawyers and just capital structure, waterfalls, I'm like, what? There's literally a freaking book on financial terms that's a dictionary. Like, I didn't even know this existed, but I can tell you about Rembrandt's 3-point lighting. Anybody care about that? I'm actually using it right now for what it's worth. My fill light's daylight. Point is, you know, mentoring helps with that, right? So like, if you're headed a direction and like, because I watched my CEO used to be the president of the television group, and then he went to CEO, and it's a really big change on what he spends his day on. And so now all of a sudden he's hanging out with Wall Street instead of hanging out with TV stations. So I wanted to look at everyone on his team and understand what they do and why they do, and like, you know, learn about what they teach you in investor school, because now all of a sudden if you're a CEO, you have to like spend time on these investor calls, and it's a different language. If you read through the transcripts, that is not in art school. None of that is in art. So it's just being really curious and then picking the brain of people who are like in that area of where you want to go. And yeah, there's just so much that I don't know about still, that I'm just scratching the surface on. Lately, I'm not a startup or entrepreneur, but I like finding out about that whole process, because the starting of businesses and managing a business is fascinating, but there's so many different levels on how you raise capital, how you structure it, who gets paid first. It gets very complicated. So there's a school that I'm doing now online called Venture Deals, and I'm just poking around and learning about it. So every year it's like, I actually sit down around New Year's and I'm like, what am I gonna learn this year? And I've always tried languages I haven't been great at, but like on the stuff that makes me curious, and I'm like, I don't know anything about that, I wanna know about it. I just had that direction. But good for you for actually finishing off your theater degree with a law degree, which is much more useful.
Advanced pretending. That's what I tell people. Law school, basically.
Yeah.
Talk with confidence. That's key.
Yeah.
I've started doing Duolingo lately, so I've just started doing the language thing. And very hard, but it's fun.
You know, I'll just say something about confidence real quick. My confidence, I know, comes from surviving and thriving. And what I mean is like going through hard shit and then figuring out how to be happy on the other side and not let that hard stuff that you faced determine who you're going to be. And so I get a lot of confidence from that, and especially when I was younger, because, you know, having a very physical childhood where you're like, people bigger and stronger than you are literally beating you up, like there are things that like a board table will never scare me. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, that's just not scary. So there's just some areas that I get my confidence from that are going to be a lot different from everybody else, but it has made me willing to speak up and speak my mind. And I think in my realm, in the media business, where it's very competitive and male driven, and most people have decades on me in the rooms I'm in, like that's helped a lot. So whatever you can use to fuel your confidence is really, really helpful in the business world.
Hey, Chris, I've got a quick question. How did you get involved on the United Way board, and do you sit on any other boards here locally?
Yeah, so I'm actually involved in 4 organizations, and I had to really focus and prioritize what I was going to be involved in. I'm involved in SAFE, which is our local domestic violence and abuse organization. So they're amazing because they fight all sorts of abuse. And you guys have heard a little bit of my story. So that's my personal thing that I'll always do no matter what city I live in. But when I got here to Austin, I really wanted to take a look at what the biggest issues were facing our community. Because for KVUE and our mission to make Austin better, I want to know what that actually means to people. And so we found, and this was before this last year, which is just kind of turned the data upside down, but affordability and traffic are the 2 biggest issues. And so I started to look around at different organizations that addressed affordability. And obviously United Way's mission to end poverty and the way we do it is so educated. It's awesome. Like, I'm really impressed by our local United Way because it's different than any other United Way that I've experienced in the country, because it's so mission oriented and aligned to strategic vision. So that's the why. And then David and team have built a really strong board. And so when you see board members like, you know, Bobby Jenkins and Jeff Thomas, who's from HEB, like, these are pillars in the community who I also look up to and consider mentors. You know, for me, that's also another motivation, is like, not only to be around such amazing board members, but to be motivated to find out why they're interested in this particular organization. And I have so many good friends on the board. It's like a party every time we have a meeting.
I have another question, so if somebody else has one, feel free to hop in. So I hate to monopolize your time. But you just mentioned affordability and traffic as being two big issues that Austinites face. But is there any other thing that you think, what do you see, what's next for Austin, and what can we do as both a part of the United Way and just as Austinites to help Austin move forward into this next decade?
Yeah, so two things there. One, I'm passionate about this city not becoming a city of have and have-nots. Mm-hmm. And it's traditionally been that way. I mean, when you start like lifting, you're like, oh, for me, I moved to this progressive city. It's so amazing. It's so free. It's so like music and happy. And you like lift the covers and you're like, ew, institutional racism. You know, like, we literally forced Black and brown people to live in this neighborhood, or else we would take away their services at a certain point. And now they can't afford their homes, and we're taking those away because of property tax. It's like, it's crazy once you lift the hood of this city. So I'm very passionate about that, because I care about those, you know, the Gonzaleses everywhere, right? Like, you know, it just, I don't want the city to become a city of have and have-nots. And I think the work at United Way directly hits on that. And it also builds a bridge between the two and pulls the haves into lifting the rest of the city up, and not just, like, no offense, sequestering in Westlake, where you have your own laws and you have your own financial system so that you're not a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, we've created all these systems to separate, when I think we need to be building a bridge. So that's why I love United Way. The second thing about that is looking forward to the future. The data is changing really fast because of COVID-19. And so right before COVID, we did some research, but one of the top things that was bubbling up was homelessness. And that became really big when the city council overturned the camping ban. And I don't know if any of you guys go out in downtown right now, but like, it's places where you never saw it before. They're just a straight up camp all along Cesar Chavez. That's going to be something big that the city has to figure out, regardless of what happens with COVID. And then obviously COVID has just turned everything upside down and has jumped to the top of the list of issues. So what does our economy look like on the other side when we, you know, music and hospitality in so many areas have just been slashed and burned, right? Like, how are we going to get them back to work? How is our economy going to be more diversified? I actually think Tesla moving here is really good, because it's more jobs that are not like at the 90, 100, you know, that whole higher education. Like, we need more diversity in jobs. So there are things like that we're going to have to contend with and figure out. But healthcare plays into that, and childcare. I know, David, you'll love to hear this, but like, it's a big conversation in the rooms with leaders right now, because and I don't mean for this to be political, but when you have so many men in the legislature making laws for our state, and they're not worried about childcare or how working moms are going to participate in the economy, the laws don't help that. And that's actually holding our economy back. So yeah, more women up in there, right? It would help us all. It would help the men and women.
Kristie, I have a question. You being the president and general manager of KVUE, and serving on 4 boards seems like, you know, that's a lot of your time that's being spent in work and then balancing these other responsibilities. So how do you approach balancing your time?
So here's another secret about boards that I didn't realize in the beginning. They all want you to be on a committee, and sometimes 2. So take board meetings and then multiply that by 2 or 3. And Ashley knows this because I'm like, I'm sorry, Ashley, I can't make the marketing meeting. So the time thing is something I'm working on, but some of the boards you'll have to just be really careful about, like, is this too much of a lift for me, right? Like Austin Chamber, I'm not on the executive committee. That's great. SAFE asked me to chair the board, and I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm not even returning your emails within a day. You know what I mean? So you just have to be really careful about all of that, and then use your time. Like, even though I came up through marketing, I prefer to be on executive committees and set strategy, because that's really what I'm passionate about now. And growth, I love that, which is a financial thing for nonprofits. So yeah, because I'm on Arrow, SAFE, United Way, and Austin Chamber. Arrow is like it's a leader organization. Also, just so you guys know, check that out, because if you want to be in the room where it happens, that's like literally the people who run the city that don't necessarily, like, you might not know about. I didn't know about it. David, I don't know what you think about it, but David just joined. It's like those people. So some of them help KVUE as well. They help me in my job, which is an added bonus. But time balance, like, I just started cooking again. So and the reason is because of COVID. And I'm thankful because I was like at events 3 times a week, right? Like showing up and representing KVUE. So like, David, what do you do now that you didn't do before?
Yeah, I had never cooked in my entire life, and now I'm grilling. I count opening a container as cooking, but I'm grilling, which I actually love. And you're right, I'd so much rather be doing that with my family, and I love events, but you know, not every night. Yeah, I'm with you.
I just bought a tagine. Does anybody know what this is? So excited. Found my Morocco cookbook from a trip I took, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna learn how to do this. That would have never happened pre-COVID. So made my first one last night.
Awesome. I think we have time, maybe one more question. Someone speak now or forever hold your peace.
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I already in the beginning started connecting with some of you guys. I would love to connect with you on there. Feel free to pick my brain. Like, I'm on social media, I'm really active, and always answering questions. So like, consider this, you know, if you're thinking about joining a board, or, you know, there's so many areas. Like this year, I just started planning my giving and putting goals on that. And just, you guys probably already do stuff like that, but it's, you know, like, I don't know, grown-up stuff that I'm getting used to. So again, like, feel free to pick my brain about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kristie. We'll definitely take you up on that. And with that, I'll hand it back to Patrick.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Kristie. A lot to digest there. I feel like I learned 3 or 4 things that I can apply. Learned a lot about just opportunities to serve. So I'm going to take you up on your opportunity, Kristie, to connect on LinkedIn, and also just look more into those nonprofit organizations that you serve on. I think everybody did a good job of just highlighting just how big the need is. And I think while there has been some silver linings with COVID, you know, cooking more, playing guitar, whatever that looks like for you, book clubs in the chats, it looks like COVID has really, really impacted a lot of families here in Austin. And so like Kristie said, as far as, you know, when you take a peek under the hood, you know, it can be ugly a little bit sometimes. And so I think just the work that United Way does, and just the community that we have within emerging leaders, I think it's just a special time. It's a special group. And so if there is any prospective members on this meeting today, I really encourage you to reach out to Jennifer for more information. It's a great group, and we have a lot of fun events. I think we had trivia a few weeks ago, and that was a blast. And then also just connecting with other leaders and like-minded individuals. I think the networking is invaluable. And so if you're not an emerging leader currently, I suggest that you connect with Jennifer to do that. I think she may have just sent the link in the chat. And so for as little as $84 a month. And so I think the Altogether Fund, also kind of highlighted that, how big the need is within the community. And so if you feel called to give and help support those folks that are struggling right now, I suggest that you do that. And our next event, if you want more information, you're already on the email list, so just keep your eyes peeled for that. But Jennifer would have more information if you're interested in our next event, or if you're interested in becoming an emerging leader. It's a great group of folks. I will end with what I've been doing in COVID, something that I did not make the time for, and that was I've been doing a lot of fishing and also playing guitar. So I think I'm connecting with my small town Texas country boy roots over COVID. So I hope that you guys have some time carved away for personal development or just fun. So I'm excited to continue this journey with you guys, and thankful that you guys all dialed in. And I think that's all we have. Jennifer, did you have any closing remarks? Kristie, Emily, great job. Thanks for running point on things. I had this thought in the process that I'm not the MC. Emily was actually the MC. So you please endorse her over me.
Well, thank you, Patrick, Emily, and Kristie for leading us through this event today. That is it. If you have any questions about emerging leaders or our next event, please feel free to shoot me an email. My email is in the chat. It is just jennifer.woods@uwatx.org. And with that, we look forward to seeing you all at our next event. Have a great day.